back into UAP for episode number 159. Stephen Diener back with you here, as always, on the Unidentified Alien Podcast. And I'm excited to bring this one to you today. I'm always excited, but I'm really excited today because I think this turned into, if I could not be biased, probably the best breakdown of the Eric Burleson UAP video that I've seen or heard so far. Again, not to be biased. I know it's on my show with my guest, but this is with Anthony Williams. Anthony Williams makes his triumphant return here to the show. And if you've listened to the show before, then you know who this is. If you're new to the show, Anthony is a military intelligence analyst, a war veteran, someone who has decades of experience in the field and in the field as far as military and intelligence, and someone that has been a great friend to the show and has been kind enough to come on here multiple times to discuss what he has seen and what he knows from the intelligence side of things. Of course, without giving anything away that is, too secret. We don't give any classified information away here. We're always smart about that. But he is able to give incredible perspective that very few can when it comes to different situations, and insight into stories and videos or reports that have not even been put out to the public. They're not classified. They're just not being spoken about. And that's what Anthony brings to the table, and he always does an incredible job of doing that. And Anthony Williams, thank you so much for coming back on to UAP. You're needed, brother. You're needed. So thanks for coming back on here to talk about this stuff.
Hey, Stephen, thanks for having me again. It's always great to have these conversations with you. And yeah, there's been a lot going on.
Yeah, just a few things. Obviously I've been hitting pretty hard at the recent UAP hearing with Eric Burleson and all the witnesses and all the congressional members. And reason being is because that made, international news, not only because of the witness testimony, but because of the video, the now famous video that Eric Burleson showed of the object, we'll just call it, getting hit by the Hellfire missile, and it seemingly bounces off. I know that's like a controversial term to use, but that's why I say seemingly. So don't get on me for anybody listening. It doesn't bounce. Okay, I'm saying seemingly bounces off. So obviously that video has gone gangbusters, and I've spoken about it here on the show. I did an extra video for social media talking about the different things on that. So I want to start there because the information that I've been presenting about that video, the extra information about it, has come from you. And I've said that in the presentations that I spoke to Anthony Williams about this, and this is what he's told me. So now I want to get the words from you directly. First off, how does a Hellfire missile that is meant to be used to go through tank armor, seemingly bounce off an object? How does that happen?
Yeah. So, a couple different things with that, that's, and I've heard you share some of what we talked about, and, you've done a great job at relaying it, but that's an air to ground munition. So that's intended to take out, armored vehicles, very, very, very well protected things, and penetrate through. And so, for an aircraft of any type, aircraft technology is meant to be very light, right? So that they can fly fast, be maneuverable. Any type of aircraft. You think of a Goodyear blimp to an F-35, the technology in it is to make them maneuverable, fast, light, and be able to fly. So definitely not heavily armored like a tank. And so, a Hellfire should be absolutely destructive to any type of aircraft. And, what caught my eye about that video when I saw it almost a year ago, and of which, the video clip that Eric Burleson received, that is not the entire video. But when that thing is struck by that Hellfire, I think if I remember right from what they showed at the hearing, there's only a few more seconds of video after that, but the video is much longer. For the next minute and a half, you see that thing continue to fly, and those three objects which it jettisoned, which are the same. That's not how debris works. Usually when debris is blown off of something, it's in different shapes and sizes, and it immediately tumbles and is caught by the wind and is no longer underneath its own propulsion to stay with the main object, the main craft. For another minute and a half, that thing keeps flying, and those three objects stay with it.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that really caught my attention when you and I spoke about it, privately. Two things I want to mention that I wanted to get off my chest too at the start was one thing that you said already, which is you viewed this video almost a year ago. I wanted to make sure I got this out there because a lot of people pointed this out correctly, and it's completely my fault. When I did the episode previously, speaking about when this video came out, I mistakenly said that it was a few years ago. That was completely my fault. I misspoke. I didn't remember correctly when this thing happened. So, late October, I think the date's out there, October 30th, 2024.
Yep.
That's the date that's been reported, and that is correct. So that was my mistake. I just want to say, because I got a lot of feedback on that on YouTube and on Twitter, people saying, well, your source is wrong because he told you the wrong date. No, I was wrong. You told me the right date, and that date has been reported already of October 30th, 2024. So just want to get that out there. I mistakenly said a few years ago. Also, what you mentioned, you have seen the whole video. So because that's part of your, job description as an intelligence analyst. So let me ask you this, Anthony. For anybody who is on the fence about this or who is hardcore saying that this is a balloon, that this is something that is obviously a balloon. I mean, I've had people coming at me saying that in the UFO community. Some pretty prominent names have come at me after I put out the video talking about, the orb stayed behind it, that this is not a balloon, that this was a real object that got hit and kept going. And some people came at me and said, you're completely wrong. Your source doesn't know anything. Why are you qualified to talk about this? And why should people trust what you're saying?
Well, first of all, I've learned long ago, I'm never going to try and convince anyone of anything.
That's fair.
Period. Because there are some people, I feel like the president could roll out, photographic evidence of bodies, alien bodies, and being truthfully honest, and then half the UFO UAP audience would say, it's mummies, it's fake, it's Jim Henson Muppets, whatever. So I think some people are unconvincible, and I think other people have in their mind if it looks similar to this, then it must be this. I will just say that over from really about 2002 till now, I don't think I could say that the amount of footage that I have watched from our collection platforms is in the thousands. It's probably in the tens of thousands, and most of it just, deliberate military footage, whether it's, loitering over a target, getting pattern of life, for an enemy, or whether it's, an actual airstrike or, a call for fire mission, and seeing, different aircraft hits, different, and honestly, the balloon strikes that we have had, there are lots of videos of us shooting balloons. And so, and capturing footage of Mylar balloons as they fly through, because some of them do give a radar cross signature, where it is unknown, and we have sent aircraft or, UAV platforms to go identify what it is. And there is a distinct difference between what a balloon looks like. And, there are different sizes of balloons, whether it's a party balloon, or a whole group of birthday balloons, and three of them have deflated and they're hanging below it. And now it looks like, the jellyfish or whatever. There are distinct differences that would take a lot more time than we have to explain what are some of the things that we're looking for. But probably the biggest thing, that differentiates this from a normal balloon strike is the continuation of flight. And unfortunately, from the video that is presented, you don't get to determine whether that's there. So I would say anyone that saw that 37-second video or whatever it was, you don't have the luxury of seeing the rest of the video. And to say, and I'm not here claiming that I've seen the entire video. I have seen a longer video.
Okay, right.
But I don't know what no one has seen is the targeting discussions prior to the strike. I've seen over a minute and a half, maybe almost 2 minutes of continuing to follow the object after the strike. And what I will say is when a balloon is struck, what it does after is not what this does after. And so all of the people that say it's a balloon, I understand why you say that. The missile, seems to go right through it. And then it looks like it morphs shape and, then the video cuts. So it's logical to leap to the fact that, hey, that thing was a balloon, it's fading out of air, and maybe it drifts with the wind a little bit longer and then goes down. But having seen the longer version of that video, that is not what happens. That debris does not plummet to the earth. That balloon does not deflate, go with the wind, and land in the ocean. It travels along in flight for at least another minute and a half, 2 minutes before that platform is called off that video.
Wow. It's definitely something that it warrants consideration at the very least. And, I always say, of course, as you know, make up your own mind. And that's totally fine. If you want to stick with balloon, by all means, that's completely fine. But what I always want to do is always present what we know. And this is what we know. And this is why I say, you can make up your own mind from the details and the facts of the video that were being given by you, since you viewed the longer video. And like you said, not the entire thing, but you viewed the longer video. So as this thing continues to go, Anthony, and the debris, whatever you want to say, a lot of people say orbs, the three things that pop out from the back after it gets hit by the missile, as that continues forward, does it seem to slow down at all? Does the velocity or the trajectory of this change? Can you tell that at all as the video goes on?
All four objects, the three objects that are jettisoned out the back, stay with it, and they continue to fly and continue to display controlled flight after that. So it's not just blowing with the wind. It's not losing altitude. A rapid descent of a balloon being punctured, expending all of its air or whatever's in it. It doesn't do that. It continues under controlled flight for the duration of the remainder of the video. And those three objects that it jettisoned outside of it remain with it, continue to fly with it. And not like the main object is pulling away from it and this debris is catching wind and, losing altitude. That doesn't happen at all. They stay together as a group and continue to fly for the remaining of the video.
What do we think those things were, Anthony? I mean, these three orbs, these three objects that pop out from the back. I mean, can we make any type of assumptions or hypothesis towards what those things might have been and why they came out and why they continue to follow, not fall?
Yeah, there are, obviously whatever they are, they have the means to controllable flight on their own. And I will say that, there's nothing within the military that behaves that way that I've ever seen in any other video. When we strike something, if you strike a ground vehicle and you injure it, all the people inside jump out. So, it appears as though that seems to be the behavior. Although usually when you're flying an aircraft, if it gets struck and a pilot ejects, you see an ejection, you see parachutes, you see other things like that. But if we don't know what the original object is, and we don't know what these objects are, they definitely exhibit behavior that would be evacuating from something that was struck, like a defensive measure. If you struck an armored personnel carrier on the ground, which we see a lot, the occupants that survived that strike jump out immediately, get away from the thing that went boom.
Yeah.
And so, that seems to be what it is to me. I don't know what those objects are. It's not real clear in the video, but there have been some amateur video UAP sleuths that have done some really good analysis, and looked at the fact, stop frame, freeze frame, look at the fact that all three of those objects are the same. And then, without the luxury of seeing what I've seen, where they continue on in controlled flight, no clue what they are. But whatever they are, they deliberately left the original object and then stayed with the original object. That is a deliberate controlled flight that you see after that.
Wow. And that is interesting, the term that you use, controlled flight. So are we to take from that these three individual objects are flying independently of the original object of where they came out from? Or should we say that they are flying with it, as to say, they're being carried by it almost?
No, it doesn't look like they're being carried with it. It looks like they're flying on their own and deliberately staying with it. And the entire group ends up making a right turn against the wind.
Oh, is that right?
Later in the video. So,
oh, wow.
That's why I say controlled flight. Like, that's not the direction of the wind, and it's not the direction that they were traveling.
Wow.
So, they maneuver after being hit, or the one after it was hit.
Wow. No, I didn't know that, actually. That's the first time I've heard that. So that's actually, I think that's a big deal, right? Am I looking too much into that? That we're looking at something?
100%. I mean, that's what we look at. And there are certain things that, that also do that, right? Like birds can show up on these IR sensors or thermal imager. And, sometimes it takes a minute, but it's easy to tell if it's a bird that's not a bird. And if a bird got hit, little birds wouldn't come out of it, and continue to fly. But, you see birds, obviously, change direction and flight. And that's what these seem to do. But it's obviously a bird that gets hit by a hellfire,
not going to be much left.
Explodes.
Yeah.
And it would have to be a pretty significant sized bird for a hellfire to be able to target it anyway.
Yeah, pterodactyl.
Right.
So but that seems significant, and I don't know if that's been out there. If it is out there, then that's on me for not hearing it before. But to hear that this not only continued straight, because I was always under the assumption that it just continued moving straight until the Reaper drone that was recording it finally moved away and went back on its original mission. But it didn't. It actually turned right, it veered right, and the objects follow it in that direction right against the wind. So not only is it changing direction, but it's also going against the wind to all four objects, if you will. That seems significant.
Yeah, it is. And wherever Eric Burleson got that video, hopefully there is a follow-up where the rest of that footage can be seen.
So something's controlling these, whether it's autonomously or an occupant, something is happening there. This isn't random.
Right.
In your opinion, it's not a bird, it's not a balloon, and it's not Superman, so we don't know what it is.
Right. I can't honestly say that, hey, I've looked at that, analyzed it, and it's blank.
Right.
But I can tell you what it's not, what I've seen other videos of that it's not.
It's interesting. Well, thank you for presenting all that. Do we know how fast it was going, by the way? Because that's been a big point of contention as well, that some people have measured the speed on this thing. Any idea on the velocity of this thing, how fast it was going?
Yeah, so our satellite intelligence analysts and our imagery analysts that look at that, they're the guys that are better at determining the difference between parallax. They take into account where the platform is, its angle of view, where that thing is, and they can get some of these UAV platforms are very good that they can track. You can actually see the grid over time moving, traveling, and it can tell you exactly how fast that object's moving. Other analysts have looked at that. That's not my area of expertise. I absolutely lean on those guys, because just looking at a video, there is a parallax effect from where the aircraft is, where the camera is, where the object is, and sometimes it can appear as though it's moving way faster than it is. And I don't have that. I've not done that level of read into it. Others have, but it's that's not something I can look at and tell you, oh, that's traveling 500 miles an hour or 100 miles an hour. Sometimes that can be deceiving. When you have a static camera and you see an object fly through it or it's tracking, that is much easier to tell versus a platform that's at a higher elevation looking down. There's a parallax effect that absolutely takes place in all those. So sometimes it's hard to judge the background and how fast the background is moving to the object, as well as the altitude of the object versus the ground. And, those objects are above, they're around 12,000 down to 10,000 feet at different times. So that's a pretty big distance. It's almost 2 miles up, from surface level. So there's a lot at play to determine the speed. And there are some people, not even in the military, that can look at that and tell you that. But that's not my not my area.
No, that's totally fair. You did mention something though that I actually wanted to touch on. And I'm glad you said it. You're not the only analyst who's looked at this. There's other analysts who have viewed this video.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Within the past, say, 11 months or so. Have you heard through the grapevine where one is, some analysts are like, oh, why are we even looking at this? This is a waste of time. Or is it kind of a consensus of like, we don't know what's happening here?
Yeah, that video falls into so many of the other videos that we've seen. And I get a kick out of whenever, these amateur UAP sleuths are so determined that, oh, it's this or it's this or it's this. Well, the experts that it's their full-time job to determine what that is for national security purposes, none of them know what it is. So good on all the people that have determined it's a balloon. They should probably come in and educate the rest of us in the Defense Department.
Fair enough.
Because, that falls into a category of, like a lot of things we capture on film, of, wow, what is that? And then we don't know. And it remains, unidentified. And so the fact that so many other people have determined that they know exactly what it is and why, good on them. But none of the experts do.
Wow. So how often does this happen, Anthony? How often do you guys come across a video of this caliber, or even more anomalous, where you say to yourself, this is insane. Like, we don't know what we're seeing here, and the public has not seen any of these videos, and you're just like talking amongst yourselves like, we don't know what to do with this. This is something and we don't know what it is. Like, does this happen a lot?
Oh, more than I could count.
Wow.
And what's crazy is, when I heard that they were going to show a video and then they showed that video, I was kind of like, oh, that one? Like, that's the one you picked out of all the videos that we've seen? Like, there are so many other videos that would just leave you jaw dropped. And rightly so, the attention that video has gotten is appropriate. That is an anti-tank missile that strikes an object and it continues to fly without being destroyed. Like, it did not destroy the target. And so while it hit the target in the official filing from that mission, it's considered a successful hit. So the missile didn't miss, it hit it. But that's one of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos like that.
Wow.
And there are some that are way more perplexing. And obviously, there's a level of security and classification involved. And most of these videos that we've seen, are classified. So they're not getting out for very real reasons. Whether they're over-classified or shouldn't be classified at the level that they are, some of them are. So they don't get out. But yeah, if one was going to get shown, I can think of dozens of videos that are way more compelling, and that one's compelling very much in its own right. I was a little surprised over the next 4 or 5 days the amount of national and international attention it got. And I was happy to see that. Like, I'm glad this is a dinner table conversation again. I'm glad it's hitting the major news networks. I'm glad it's getting press all over, because that should be alarming that, the U.S. military made a conscious decision to strike a target, hit it, and it kept going.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big deal. And honestly, these congressmen and women that held that hearing should have the people from the Department of War that are the experts on this say, hey, what are we doing about this? What is it that could possibly get struck with a Hellfire missile and not be destroyed? That's in the air, like on the ground. Okay, it's got a new type of, active armor or this or that. That's a math problem. That's a science problem that we have to calculate. All right, we need bigger boom. But something in the air like that should be a discussion. What could possibly get struck with that missile and continue to fly controlled?
Well, is it a discussion? I mean, that's something I've been wondering too. Is this type of video now? Obviously, I'm sure he's seen it. And when I say he, I'm going to ask you about the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. I assume he's seen this video because it made the news and it was part of the hearing, and a congressman presented it in Congress. But I mean, do these videos make it to the secretary's desk, or is it just kind of handled on an analyst level? And I mean, because it sounds like it should make it to his desk, shouldn't it?
Well, it's amazing what leadership gets briefed to and what they don't.
Right.
And so, when you look at all of the things that he is, the Secretary of Defense, has on his radar. So there's a couple different things, right? Like globally, there's a lot going on. Politically, there's a lot going on. So he has a full plate of daily updates around the globe of just things that are happening that demand his attention every day. So this is one that the analysts don't really know what it is. Doesn't seem to pose a threat after the strike. I don't know what it did before the strike. I don't know why it was determined hostile, or if it met strike criteria. And we have that, where if an object is flying and looks like it can carry a payload, then it triggers a standing order to strike. And maybe it did that. I don't know. Because like I said, I don't see any of the video leading up to the decision to strike. You
Right.
see it flying for a little bit, get struck, and then you see it flying for longer after. But when it falls into that's not the biggest fish on his plate right now. So the other thing that gets, attention like that is the squeaky wheel, right? And we see that, we all deal with that in our life. While what we're dealing with right now might not be the biggest priority, it's the one that our kids won't stop yelling about, or, our spouse keeps bringing up. So, okay, I'm going to stop what I'm doing right now that I think is more important, and I'm going to address this other thing. So for him to get brought into something that is not, one of the largest things going on at the time, and it's also an unknown, and it also doesn't appear to be a threat. And, I don't see that makes it to his plate in any way, shape, or form. And most of those videos that we don't know what they are don't, because they don't fit that, threat, no threat. That's really the world that we live in the Department of War. Is this a threat right now? Is this mission critical, mission sensitive? Where does this fall? And I would say that video may make it to him now. On the other side of squeaky wheel gets the oil. It's being talked about by everybody, to include Congress and the media everywhere. So it's probably like, hey, what is that?
Yeah.
But I could honestly see, with the best of intentions, even if he sees that video, unless he's getting pressured by House Armed Service or Senate Armed Service, this may also fall into the realm of, yep, don't know what that is. I really have to deal with this Gaza thing. Or this, Ukraine problem, or, any of these other global issues that are daily, inch by inch, yard by yard fights that he has on his plate. So, I could see why this would not be on his radar at all.
Yeah, it's understandable. I think the only question that I have on that, and maybe this is something that, I think other people might think about, is that would the curiosity, not that curiosity is a top priority, but just the, maybe sound an alarm that our artillery is not getting the job done against something flying within a mission field. And I mean, would that raise some type of alarm for the higher ups, whether it's the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War, or someone else directly below him, to say, hey, this is kind of weird. Like, does kind of makes us scratch our head a little bit as to why this missile didn't do anything to this craft. Does it raise any alarms?
Well, remember, one, there's clearly some sort of cover-up within government on this, right? So somewhere at some level, someone doesn't want this attention. And whatever level of advisor that is, it only takes one or two trusted agents saying, hey, this isn't anything we need to worry about, next subject. And it will not get where it needs to go. So your idea of curiosity is a good one, because a lot of the people that this is an issue for are the ones that are taking the military and the highly qualified observers' concern to heart. That's what's getting traction on these things. That's what's led to hearings. That's what's leading to more people coming forward. But never underestimate the ability of a trusted agent and a good story to dissuade any sort of attention. And it takes one key place general officer or senior leader that's a trusted agent being told, hey, that's nothing, don't worry about, it was a successful hit, move on. And hey, do I need to be concerned about that? No, sir, successful hit, just it's the UAP crazies. Oh, okay. Got it. Moving on. It doesn't take much to dissuade that. And there's a very, very active, attempt to conceal everything about this topic. Very active within government. And it's what all these congressmen and women are finding, beating their heads up against. It's what every one of these whistleblowers and firsthand witnesses are warning about. It's a very real thing. And, the fact that it's not getting traction, to me, does not call into question Pete Hegseth's integrity. What it calls into question is, where is the active attempt to conceal, and where's that at? Yeah. Why are we running up against so many brick walls on a subject that is not real? If it's not a real thing, then why are we hiding it?
It's a great question, isn't it? I think that's a very fair question to ask. A couple more things on this, Anthony, because I have so much more that I want to try to get to with you today. But this is one of the big questions that I've been asked over the past week or so. And I know you touched on it briefly during one of your explanations here in the past few minutes, but why did we shoot at it? I know the answer is we don't know, but can there be any speculation as to what would cause the call for this thing to be hostile and have that call to shoot at it, just on past experiences of other things that have been, called hostile?
Well, especially after the Chinese balloon incident, the administration at the time took a lot of grief that they allowed this object that they knew was there to fly over very sensitive areas unopposed. And I think that raised enough red flags and enough alarms to where, and we do have standing orders in other theaters, if there's a small drone that's not ours that has the ability to carry a payload, for 15 years or longer, we've had adversaries flying over small UAVs and dropping grenades and mortar rounds on our soldiers, wounding, maiming, killing. So there's standing orders that exist. My guess is this object probably flew through an area of active operation, and it met one of those fire criteria that exists. Hey, if you see this object that potentially could do this and it's in this area, you're free to engage. And it probably met engagement criteria. So it was, shot at. That's my guess.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. Again, that's, for I guess, full disclosure, that's all we can do really is guess.
Yeah.
On that note, I want to show you something, and obviously you and I are on camera, but we were just recording audio. There was, as you say, maybe other sightings of something similar. There's a video that was released that was brought to my attention. I had never seen it. I'm curious if you have. Money Penny on Twitter. She has a pretty, significant following on Twitter. And she tagged me on this and said, have you seen this video from AARO? The reason I bring it up, she's like, I know it's out there, But the date is pretty coincidental because apparently this was recorded on October 31st, 2024, the day after the Yemen UAP with the Hellfire missile. So I'm going to hold it up. I don't know if you can get a good look at it on the camera that you and I are on. And does this video look familiar? It shows, it's a color video from AARO that was released within the past, actually don't know, well, let's just say recently.
Yep.
And it shows a similar looking type of object in shape to what's in the Eric Burleson video. Now, there's no Hellfire missile that comes at this one, but it's flying over open water in the Middle East. But again, this one is in color. Now, AARO, I guess, kind of brushed it away as a red balloon that was caught on video, and they said this was nothing. But number one, are you familiar with the video I just showed you?
Yep, I've seen that.
And so number two, is it coincidental that it's the day after the video we've been talking about of the UAP that gets, or the object that gets hit by the Hellfire missile? Is that a coincidence, or could this be a connection to some type of objects that were being seen which would cause a standing order to shoot at it?
Yeah, to me that stands out as, that obviously they tracked it. Obviously they recorded it. I don't see that as something I can quickly write off either. And I've seen that video, and I've seen what AARO wrote on it, and it's saved in the comments on the networks where I saw it. But to me, again, that is another example of an anomalous object that can't be quickly written off. So
that's interesting. So you've seen this video, you know it, and yes. AARO puts it out publicly and says nothing to see here, a balloon. But you're saying that this is still within the comments section on your intelligence side, if you will, where it hasn't been written off on your side.
No, there's a whole bunch of analysts that are looking at that and discussing in a forum on what they think that is. But no, they didn't. Our community didn't write that off as, yep, AARO's right, balloon. Nope, that did not get that nod.
So what causes AARO to write it off so quickly? If their own intelligence, sector isn't writing it off, why did they?
I think you'd have to ask AARO, and that seems to be a pretty common answer lately, doesn't it?
That sure does.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I hadn't previewed that video with you at all. That was the first time I showed it to you, so I didn't know if you had seen it. I was kind of taking a chance there on whether or not you even knew what that was. So pretty interesting. If you don't know the video I'm talking about, and to be fair, I didn't even know what it was until I was tagged on it. So I'll retweet that at UA Podcast 850, where you can see that. Again, Moneypenny on Twitter. Credit to her for tagging me on that. And it's on my profile right now if you want to check it out, but I'll also retweet it and say this is what we were talking about. But it does show something similar. It's a color video as opposed to black and white footage, and it shows a similar looking object anyway, moving across the open sea. Was that in the Middle East as well?
I don't remember offhand. Okay. I would need to go back. I need to go back in and look at it. I don't remember.
It's interesting. Should we take anything away from that it was the day after, October 30th and now October 31st, or is that just...
I think it's worth noting, especially if it's in the vicinity, for sure. Because here's the other thing: the first video, the Yemen video, this is not in an area where you would expect to see party balloons or anything released like that. This is nowhere near that, and where that strike took place. That's when people are like, oh, it's a balloon, it's this, it's that. It's like, oh, then how did it get there? I'll never forget some of the stories that I just have from different military scenarios where something's odd, but what's more odd is where it's odd. Not just that it's odd, but how did it get there? How did that get there? I remember flying over the Hindu Kush mountains in Afghanistan, and you're seeing nothing for hundreds of miles, and then there's one house at 16,000 feet with a fire going, and it's snow, and you're like, wow, how did that get there? Where did that guy get wood? Like all these things going through your head. So it's not just that it's odd, but it's where it's odd. So In both those scenarios, the second video, I'd have to look at where that was. But for the first one, for sure, not just that it's odd, but it's where it's odd and why it's there and how it got there. That's anomalous on its own.
It's a good point, and I do find it really telling that the intelligence community that you're in has not written that thing off, but AARO has been quick to say, yeah, here you go, have fun with this one. It's just balloons. And basically, your take on it is you guys haven't said that at all. So I just find that almost, and I hate to use the word intentional, so I don't know if it's intentional or unintentional, but that disconnect from AARO to the intelligence community is kind of startling.
Well, after the very first AARO report that came out, it was really clear that there's an agenda, at least with Sean Kirkpatrick, that there was an agenda to make this topic go away. Not necessarily that AARO's collection efforts are not sincere, but their reporting is definitely, there's an agenda there.
I do want to ask you about some of the witnesses too, Anthony, kind of moving away from the video and getting into some other topics, because I think incredible coverage. I appreciate all of your expertise and your insight on that, and I think you painted a really insightful picture on the facts and the details that you've seen and what we can take away from that and kind of make up our own minds from there. But I wanted to get your take on some of the witness testimony that also took place that day inside Congress. What did you take away when you heard Jeff Nusatelli and Chief Wiggins, George Knapp, and Tyler Borland? What kind of stuck out to you?
To me, I could find myself in every one of their stories. I could find my own story, my own experience in there, and the fact that these guys all witnessed something that's real. It's out of the ordinary. It's anomalous, and at least for Jeff Nusatelli and Chief Wiggins, their incidents were witnessed by dozens of people. Yeah. And so you can't write that off. When they bring that up, these are qualified individuals observing something that is very, very anomalous. I think it's worth listening to and acknowledging the fact that just like Dave Fravor, just like Ryan Graves, all these firsthand witnesses that have seen something, they're too qualified to write off. They have seen what normal looks like, and they know what abnormal looks like. And when they're jumping up and down saying, this is not normal, that demands attention. And that's why those are to me, very good people to have testifying before Congress and in front of leadership, because they are qualified to observe normal, adversary, friendly, determine the difference, and if needed, take lethal action against. That's not a small thing that we ask of our military. And so when these people can't make heads or tails, that's their job. You working in radio, we don't ask you to say, hey, should we shoot that guy over there? That you would look at me with milk saucers for eyes and say, what? Why would you even think that? I have no idea. That's not your job. Right. But that's these guys' job. And so when they see something that they can't make heads or tails of, cannot determine threat, no threat, friendly, adversary, that demands attention. And that is why they're such qualified witnesses. And to see organizations like AARO write that off, that's a deliberate action.
And that's where we will end it for now. It felt like a good spot to stop there. And I do want to thank Anthony again for all of that incredible insight. Again, like I said to start off the show, and like I said during